Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's voice is a returning guest, Emily. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
The title of this episode is Social Butterfly, and I think probably you could be like, what does that mean? But essentially, if we can give, and this is sort of my mindset around this episode, is to give as many golden nuggets and tools for people that are actively bodybuilding, whether that's for a lifestyle or competitors. Obviously, we can cover a lot of that to actually be able to go, okay, so maybe socializing isn't as daunting as I think, and maybe I can incorporate more than maybe my, because it's almost like a limiting belief system, isn't it? It can get so,
Yeah.
you can get so worked up about just going out, right?
Mm. Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a bit of a learning curve really over time because especially if you are bodybuilding and you're prepping, to start off with, you don't want to do anything that is going to throw out your routine. And it's not really about a food thing because in most situations food can be controlled. It's more the routine of, I get up and I do my cardio and then I eat my meal and then I train and then I do this and then I do that. And to be invited out, suddenly that's all thrown. So now I have to set my alarm earlier because I've still got to do my cardio in the morning because we have this mindset thing that God forbid we push it to later in the day. So yeah, so it can be really daunting. And I think it's definitely something that I know from my personal experience, first prep, just said no to everything. But as I've got, I don't know whether it's experience of competing more or just generally getting older and actually just not wanting to miss out and sort of redefining what my values are and how not it's not that they take priority over bodybuilding because bodybuilding is one of my values. It's just how I balance them. And I've realized, especially in my last prep, so last year, that I could pretty much do everything, but just to be vocal about the fact that I won't be eating or I won't be staying quite as long or I'll be turning up a little bit late. And actually, turns out no one cares. No one cares.
They just want to see you a lot of the time.
They just want to see, and I like never undervalue presence.
Yeah, because as well, right? And particularly as the prep goes on, you're getting, generally speaking, more fatigued, more hungry, and potentially that can cause irritability depending on where you're at as a person. And maybe, like you say, if it's your first time. But I found that actually being present as I move through a prep in socializing outside of the food side of things, actually, you can push back a meal a little bit and you get to eat more
Yeah,
later day, or you can work things and push and pull things. Now, again, like you say, could be down to experience. It's like actually you can push and pull quite a lot over a week, right? And I think that sometimes
yeah,
we're like it has to be done like this on this day. Whereas from a coaching standpoint, and you may be similar, it's more okay. So this is needs to be done over a week. Obviously, right near a show is different, but over the week, have you done X cardio, X weight training? Have you eaten your meals? Have you hit your macros? Okay, cool. We've done what we need to do in a week. And that can sometimes institutionalize much more than you need to if you're just every single day has to be this like neurotic routine.
yeah. Yeah, I think you've got to think about what's your weekly average. So if you are meant to be training 5 times a week and you've got your set rest days, if you have to rejig those, it can feel very much like, especially in prep when you're at the point that you're weighing yourself every day, because that will affect your body weight. Because especially if you've got training day and non-training day food, you move to training day, you're actually eating more one day than you would have done normally. Things like fluid retention from fatigue, etc. It's all going to affect what a scale weight looks like. But then if you actually then average out across the week and compare it to the week before, as long as you've ticked all those boxes, you're going to get the results that you want to get, whether that is, well, don't focus too much on scale weight, but in terms of like how your physique's changing, you'll still get the same results. So I don't want to say routine's not important because I do think routine's important, but it's not the be all and end all. And the important thing is, again, it's something that most of us need to learn over time, allowing yourself to be flexible. You will, in a way, get better results because you can just relax into it, accept that, sometimes things, time might become tight because you wanted to do something else. So whereas a training session might usually last an hour and a half, you're going to have to do it in an hour. realistically, as long as you focus in that hour and you just get it done, it's not going to make any difference. So yeah, relaxing into flexibility, I think, is really, really important, because that relax and reduces stress reduction. Then we know that the benefits that's going to have on the physique.
Yeah, for sure. I literally had it this week. So my scale went up like zero point 0.2 and I was like, cool, okay, it's gone up by zero point 0.2. And then literally overnight last night, and this feeds into exactly what you're saying, I lost zero point 0.8 overnight and I was like, shit, this is cool. And then I obviously you backtrack, right? So you look at trends and me and Matt spent some time relaxing last night. That's the only change. That's the only change. And I'm like, this is sick because again it validates and we can get caught up on scale weight for sure, but it validates, right, okay, so what did I change? I literally had a couple of hours watching TV that I wouldn't normally do because it's like, oh, how much rest can I facilitate, how much recovery can I facilitate? And I've got my recovery routine at night, but I just extended that because it was meant to be a day off, and normally a day off I'm like, well, I'll work a bit.
Yeah,
But method in the madness, as it were. And it's like, that's quite a big drop overnight, right? So it's like,
yeah,
it really does help to solidify. And I know it, like you say, we know it. But if people are listening, it's like, maybe I could actually, rejig things to have a bit more recovery time. And that could be doing something stupid like watching TV.
yeah, yeah. And it's how your body responds over time. So again, if we're looking more specifically at prep, you probably we're not going to want to take additional rest because we want to just be on it continuously, because that's what we believe is going to get us the best results. But actually learning to listen to your body and saying, well, this week I'm going to have an extra day, or even just like pull back in the evening. So even if you had 5,000 extra steps to do, but you knew that your legs were so tired, you're mentally drained, mentally exhausted, it's pushing into nighttime anyway. You also know the value of sleep. Sometimes it's better to just sleep. And then if you really want to tick those 5,000 step box, add an extra 1,000 on every day for the next 5 days. Again, coming back to those weekly averages, it's not going to make any difference.
It just gives
So,
you that freedom, doesn't it, in your mind?
yeah. But it's a hard thing. First preps, it's a hard thing to get your head around, and especially because most of us will be working with a coach,
Mm.
particularly for a first prep, and you do the coach, you are paying for a service. So essentially, if you're not doing what they've told you to do, you feel like you're doing something wrong and you're failing. But actually just having that open communication, rather than just being the yes client, I'll do whatever you say client, be the client that goes, yep, okay, I understand what you're saying for this week. However, on Wednesday, I'm meant to be doing this. All it means is I'll take my food with me. I'll still be able to train. I'm going to struggle to fit all of my cardio in. However, I'm not meant to be doing cardio the next day, and therefore I'll put it there. And it's going to get harder and harder and harder the closer you get to a show to be able to do that. But then equally, you're probably going to get more and more fucked. So actually, you're not going to want to. And that's also okay. But just being vocal, and it is, same, if you take an extra rest day because you felt like you really needed it, don't let your coach play a guessing game of why has there been a change. Just tell them, and they'll probably be like,
Okay.
okay, I'm glad you listened to your body, because actually you're probably going to do better, reduce your risk of injury, have less stress, be better in the gym afterwards from having that extra rest.
Yeah, for sure. And it is as well, it's what is socializing, right? It doesn't have to be going out to massive, get-togethers or whatever. If it gets to the point where you're like, socially, you can feel a little bit drained, like you say, with the fatigue, etc. So it's like that example of sitting in front of the TV with your partner or whatever, it's still socializing in a different way.
Yeah, and I've moved around a lot. Like I've been to 3 different universities, so I've got friends all over the country, and it's not easy for me. I've got all my bodybuilding friends as well. It's really not easy for me to see people that often because I work such long hours. So it is quite important to me that, like especially with like one group of friends, we make it non-negotiable. We're going to meet up every quarter. And when I'm in my off season, we'll go in, like we did it on Saturday. We went to Bongo Bingos and we had a great time, and I had some drinks, I had some food, and let my hair down. But if I go into prep, if I'm close to a show, it's not a case of I'm sorry I can't be there. It's a case of okay, girls, look, do you mind if we just do something that isn't so energy intensive? Because again, I mean, I'm not fussed about not drinking and not eating the food, but I don't really want to be on like a party scene when I'm flagging, I'm 4 weeks out. But I love going out for a walk. We've got the dog, so we can meet a little bit. They're quite happy to come to me. We can go and get a coffee if they want to eat. That's fine. I can take my meal, and they've had to learn that over time because I'm talking about people who are not bodybuilders. So to them, they didn't understand what it was when I first started, but now they've seen it. They've heard me talk about it. They get it, and they understand that importance as well. It's not an I don't want to see you. It's just the can we be a little bit more flexible? So what we do is something that isn't going to throw me off. Equally, the minute I stop prep, then I will do whatever you want to do because you've done that thing for me. I'm going to do that back for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it is as well, isn't it? It's that clear communication, and that's often we can sort of find ourselves feeling bad or maybe avoiding these scenarios when we could just own it. Like you've just given that example of like, I still would like to see you, and I do it with my mum. I'm like, can you just come over? Because actually going out for a meal and just sitting there with the Tupperware and whatever, or I can eat before, but it's like actually you could just come over rather than
Yeah.
just this because I feel like as well there certainly is this, and sometimes it's of course warranted, but we can also like, I guess the way I'm trying to say it is like we quite like sitting there with the Tupperware and making it a bit of a
Mm.
scene. Um, yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
it's cool, you can do that. I've done it several fucking times. But now I'm like, I'd rather just eat before or eat after or get someone to come round. And I think that sometimes we can wind ourselves up rather than just accept, okay, we can just move things around and just
Yeah.
socialize separately, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about just not making it such a big deal. It's really easy to make everything a big deal. Again, if you're in a prep, heightened sense of emotions. So you'll get hung up on things that throw you out of whack just because you are really heightened, really tired, really stressed, whatever it is. And actually, when you just take a step back, you realize that it doesn't matter so much. And exactly that, if you don't want to take Tupperware places, don't take Tupperware places. Just either do something different, get someone to come to you, eat before, eat after. It's actually more socially acceptable than you think to be the person that declines getting a cake when you go for the coffee. No one really questioned it. And to be honest, if you went out with a normal group of people or normal family members and you went for a coffee and everyone ordered a cake bar one person and you said to that person, why aren't you having cake? And they went, I'm on a diet. But okay, cool. So it doesn't have to be, but it's the same thing. It's just they're dieting probably purely to lose weight. We're dieting to get on a stage.
Sure, for sure.
The only difference is we probably don't, we're not overweight. So to Gen Pop, the question back is why do you need to be on diet? But then, well, you have a reason why you need to be on a diet because you're getting on stage.
Mm, mm.
It doesn't have to be a health reason.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like again, the limiting beliefs in our own mind is that people are gonna ask these questions and whatever. And for sure we face questions as bodybuilders. However, again, I feel like it's like just owning it and just being a bit more upfront and just being clear in your communication. This is what I'm going to do. This is why I'd still like to meet up with you. We can overcomplicate it in our own minds and be like, oh my God, everyone's going to ask me questions, everyone, and you premeditate it. And I think that sometimes you're asking for it a little bit because you're
Yeah.
thinking already everyone's going to ask what I'm doing. And this is why now I'm like, if I need to take my Tupperware, I take my Tupperware. But I
Mm.
can just not eat for a bit longer now if it's if it
Yeah.
fits. I'm just like cool. However, it's then where's the mindset at? How are we managing hunger? Are we into this bodybuilding journey? Are we doing it for external reasons? Is there work to be done on the mindset to actually go, it's okay to push my meal back an hour. Like no one's going to die. It's fine. But again, it's like this real neurotic behavior that can actually stress you out more. And this is why I'm talking about it. You
Mm.
actually stress yourself out and
Yeah.
you can really get into these thought processes, can't you?
Yeah, and I think so. What you've got to do is, if you're finding that you have this neurotic behavior, this like routine that has to be done exactly the way that you've done it from day one, start looking around and talking to different bodybuilders and see how they do it. So I have my day-to-day routine on prep is dependent on what day it is because it works around the hours. So for those of you that don't know, I own a gym. So it works around the hours that I'm in the gym. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I open the gym at 6. At 6 a.m., I don't want to eat. Well, I probably do, but I can't. There's no point eating that early because I've got too many hours stretching meals out. So I might as well do my cardio. So that always works. Fasted cardio Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday, I've done 3 14 hours days. I am not getting up and getting in the gym at 6 a.m., especially when I'm paying a member of staff to be here. We take the morning off. So I will do steps because I'll walk the dogs first thing in the morning, but I will prioritize my sleep that day and I will have at least one meal before I come into the gym and then I will do my cardio. And then Friday, it's a little bit different because I work different hours. Saturday, it's a little bit different because I work different hours. Sunday is my day off, and I'll only come in when I'm ready, when I feel like it, to do my cardio. Other people will do the same thing every single day. Other people will be very successful bodybuilders that work shift work. So they physically can't do the same thing every day because some days it's 6 a.m. cardio, other days they're actually at work doing a job at 6 a.m. So when you start looking at the whole bodybuilder community, we all do it differently, but we all get to the same place. So it's not about the timing. It's not really about how you divide your week. It's the point that you do it. So in your week, you have the tick boxes, you do all the tick boxes. However that works for you, you'll still get to that same end goal.
Yeah, it's really important because also you can, I guess you can sort of flex how strong your mindset is as well with things like hunger, like actually pushing into it a bit because it's inevitable in a prep.
Yeah.
You know, everyone gets hungry. So I actually feel like it's a bit of a quest sometimes to just be like, can I sort of push my meals back a little bit more to actually do something like, whether you go for a walk and a coffee or whatever. How does that feel? Like maybe you feel okay doing that. Okay, so maybe I could have a little bit longer between my meals sometimes if I need to. If, like you say, you're a shift worker, something comes up, or there's an emergency, or things happen, rather than have this like massive breakdown of fuck, I've not hit my targets. You have, but they've just shifted a bit within the day. That can allow just a little bit more, I feel, readiness to execute as well with life in tow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Most of the time, it's not a physical issue that affects you, it is the psychology. So we can sit with hunger. It might not be the most comfortable thing, but in general, if you're distracted, you can allow it to be there. It's just that make sure that you're also allowing yourself to be present in the moment and to be focusing on something else. And actually, that hunger, then, those feelings, even though there, might reduce. And then you can kind of, in a way, build the value around the fact that, well, when I do get to eat, I'm then going to eat again maybe 2 hours later because then I'm going to be going to bed. And then actually, in a prep where it's really difficult and you're feeling hungry a lot, because then your final 2 meals are a bit closer together, you feel more satiated. And again, you'll sleep better because when you're not waking up in the middle of the night starving, you actually can have a full night's sleep. So rather than regardless of whether you're a bodybuilder or your lifestyle, whoever you are, whatever your goal, don't focus on the negatives, focus on the positives. So you in every scenario, you're probably going to be able to find things that are negative, difficult, challenging, but equally you can also find the positives, the things that make stuff better, whether that is before or after. So try and keep that mindset on those positives. And when it comes to bodybuilding, or when it just becomes, you're just on a diet because you wanted to lose weight, whatever it is, it's your choice. No one's forcing you to do it. There's no gun to the head making you do anything. So this is where prep is a privilege. It really is. Like, the starving children in Africa do not want to hear that you're upset because you didn't get to eat your meal on time because you chose to do something else. You just, it's just a choice that you make. And you want it, bodybuilding should enhance your lifestyle. If it's not enhancing it, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. Don't let it take away from your lifestyle. Even if it's your job, so even if you're sitting here as a pro and that is what you do, you are a bodybuilder, it's just like with any other job. You want a sense of purpose with that, you want longevity with that, and it should be something that you enjoy. So if every day you're waking up being like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to go and do this again, don't do it. Like there's so many other things that you can do that you'll get something much more out of.
Yeah, because in all of this, you're not missing things, are you? Right?
No.
Like you're not missing the meal, you're not missing the training, you're not missing the cardio, and those types of thought processes, I feel like exactly as you said there, it takes away from it being an enhancement of your life, a privilege, because the neuroticism is good. There's a time and a place for it to a certain degree, depending on how much your mind is blowing at the same time, and no one can hear that, right? It's just you.
Mm-hmm.
However, actually pouring that into the bodybuilding as a positive and executing like a boss, right? Like, I love that I can say, in a prep, you're not going to think, fucking hell, she's a moody bitch. Like, it's hard. It's fucking hard, but it's so cool, right? Like, it is. And it's important to see, and look, why are you doing this? What is it you want to get from this? Being able to, in all phases, being able to prep, look at your physique change and feel excitement, right? I'm hungry, but I'm hungry for success. In off season, I feel better. I feel healthier. I'm able to do all of these things and nourish my body so that I can then go back into a prep. And all of the phases
Yeah.
bring so much positivity, but it's just those food pathologies, the body image issues, the things that come from that. It's like this negative, like you say, the undercurrent all the time
Mm.
from what really is such a positive endeavor that not many people do.
No, and it takes a real level of discipline, motivation, drive to be a bodybuilder. So, like, we can't underestimate it. Prep is really tough, but it's not just about the prep, it's everything that you did in the off season that set you up for that prep. And regardless of how you do when you get on stage, just the fact that you got on stage is a flipping incredible achievement. But if you're going to achieve, you're going to have that achievement, then you need to enjoy the process of getting there, and then you need to enjoy the process after. And a lot of that is, like I said, it's about being able to enhance your lifestyle and to be part of your life. And you don't want to be known for the person that for half the year every year you're a moody bitch. Be seen. You want to be like, we should be setting bodybuilding gets enough of a bad press,
Yeah.
but so let's show the good things of it. Like it's not healthy. Let's face it, it's not a healthy sport. It's a little bit weird when you really think about it. But there's a reason why there's so many people watching this, nodding along, because we fucking love it, and we love it because we love training. So let's show the people that don't understand it, that never will understand it. Actually, there's a reason why we do it. I like my last prep, at my last two preps, one of the things that made me think, do you know what, this has been a successful prep, again, regardless of the outcome, is that people didn't even know that I was on prep, because outwardly, I was still doing stuff. I was still smiling. I was still engaging in conversation. And do you know what? Sometimes that drained me, but I did it because I didn't want people, like, I wanted to be there for people. I didn't want to feel like I was going to lose. I'm sure I wouldn't, but I didn't want to feel like I was going to lose friends. I wanted to, I know that I'm an eternally positive person, and I wanted to maintain that. So I did push through it, but actually then it does make my prep easier because it makes it more joyful.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor, isn't it? It's like I'm a part.
Yeah.
This is this is super cool, and I feel like as well, in the social scenarios, being able to sometimes actually realize that people are quite interested by it. People are like,
Mm.
as you say, not many people are doing it, and actually, like your friends over the years, they're probably like they'll tell other people, I've got a friend that does bodybuilding, like, and it's a really nice thing. It's a real positive thing. And sometimes we actually have to look at ourselves and how we're operating within these scenarios, whether it's prep or off season. You can tell yourself I'm very positive, but actually you're maybe quite negative, and it's making this force field of like, negativity. And then people, I think, will think, why are you doing it? Like, what?
No.
what's this for? Because you don't seem to be as happy as what this should be bringing you if you are truly passionate about it. And it causes this sort of force field, doesn't it? Like, I can't socialize, I can't do these things. I'm a bodybuilder, I'm doing off season or prep or whatever it is. It can actually end up being this, blockade.
Yeah, and I mean, I very much see myself very much an inclusive person. So I'm like, what can we include in the diet? What can we include in our lifestyle, rather than building these barriers? And you can do the same with prep. So there's going to be things that you can't do. Like, unfortunately, you can't have that bar of chocolate, you can't have that burger. But what can you have instead? And that doesn't, if we were looking at food, that doesn't have to be what can I have to eat, but it's what can I bring to that conversation? What memory can I make in that situation? So yeah, it's flipping the mindset. Always reframe those thoughts. When you find that it's going to happen, especially again when you're tired or when you're stressed, you might find that you start getting these negative thoughts and they spiral downwards. To bring yourself out, even if you have to write them down, to then rewrite them in a reframed way, that's okay. But everything, try and look at what's the positives, and equally do the same when you're coming out of a prep and you're going into your off season, because I think that's actually probably the bit that people struggle with the most, this segue between something that was very controlled into something that actually can be a little bit more relaxed. But then what does that do to your physique, and what does that do to your mindset around food, your mindset around body image? And then again, if you start looking at the outward world and how they're going to perceive that, that's harder for them to understand, because at least in a prep, they see what you're trying to achieve by, this is what I'm trying to look like on stage. But then in off season, it's like, but why are you crying over pizza? You can eat the pizza. So,
Mm.
you have got to look at it like full scale, but all the way through, try reframe your thoughts around everything that is to do with bodybuilding. You will enjoy it more.
Yeah, yeah. And it's learning in the off-season example, what do you actually enjoy? I think that we sort of, I talked about this on an off-plan pod where it's like we almost feel like we have to have the burger and chips, we have to have the pizza, we have to have the bakes. Like they're like almost what's on social media is the bodybuilding off-season, off-plan. And I certainly fell into the trap of like feeling like I needed to do that to again in a warped way be a good bodybuilder because that's what everyone else
Yeah.
does. And then I was like, I don't feel like I need to eat all of this food, but then I'm in a group and it's like, well, everyone's doing it. If I don't do it, Sarah, why aren't you doing it? It's the other end of the spectrum, isn't it? Because it's almost external pressure to a certain degree from other bodybuilders. And
Yeah.
this is the thing as well. And again, I think that this can be missed a little bit, that actually it's not just gem pop people. You can actually find in the bodybuilding space, if you hang out with bodybuilders, etc., there's pressure from that point of view. I've seen it multiple times at shows, eat this, and then people are eating it and they're like, oh, I regret that I ate that. It's post show. And then that again, that's going to build potentially food pathologies.
Yeah, and it does become quite a tricky situation, because you really have to learn to be true to yourself. So, what's your reason for wanting it? What's your reason for not wanting it? So yes, in a pressure situation where you're around all the bodybuilders and they're all like, "Why aren't you eating the cookie? Why don't you want the burger? Why don't you want the pizza?" If your answer is genuinely either "I'm full, I just don't fancy it, I'd rather have something else," that's fine. But if you're answering like that because actually you have a fear of eating the food, that's where the problem lies. And of course, you're the only one that can say whether that's the case or not, because whatever you tell someone else, they're probably going to believe it unless they're really analyzing you. So there's a little bit of truth talking to yourself. So don't kid yourself. Be really honest with yourself. If you finished your prep, you're hungry, and you're saying no because that's not what's on your food plan, that's probably something you need to question. But if you're saying no because you don't want it, absolutely fine. Guess what? You're a grown adult. You're allowed to make those decisions yourself. You know what's best for you. You know what you want. You just need to actually figure it out and figure out the reasons why.
And you sort of don't know sometimes, right? Like
Yeah. When you go back and you that first time when you come out, you actually probably do feel overwhelmed. Like, actually, what do I want? Um, it takes time, but again, like don't. This is what. So I think social media. I've talked about this a lot. It's a blessing and a curse. There's so many good things that happen with social media and the sharing of bodybuilding journeys and the sharing of how people finish a prep and what happens in the off season. I think can be really positive, but because we just naturally compare, it can also be really negative. So it's remembering that you are an individual and you can make your own choices based off what you need and not almost always preempt what you're going to need based on what someone on social media told you they did, and therefore you should want the same thing. And that can be a bit difficult, and that's sometimes where maybe shut social media down for a little bit while you work through it, and then you can open it back up. um and if there's anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, mute it. Like it's not worth it.
Yeah, like you say, it can be positive and a drawback. Again, I think it's where you're at as a person. Also, we forget we're people. It's
Yeah, yeah.
um,
We're not superhuman. What?
yeah, it's like, what are you searching? What are you looking at? Who do you follow? Like, it sounds really basic, but it's so true. Like, I follow, a very small percentage of people. I see what I want to see. I don't get negative connotations with social media, and I feel very grateful for that. But I also realize why. I used to in my first preps watch, like, seek out food porn and all of these things, and look at other competitors, and all it did was add stress. Like, and then I realized over the years, like, I'm just watching these things for the sake of it. I'm just looking at these things for the sake of it, and I'm not actually gaining anything from it. And it goes back to who and what serves you. And we have to be
Yeah,
adult in here about that. It's like,
yeah,
if I see someone's post and I'm like, oh, I feel a bit negative about that for whatever reason. And then I see it again, it's the same person, and I think I still feel quite negative about this person. Mute them, or, just unfollow them. It's not that difficult, but again, it's like, what are we telling ourselves in here? I have to follow this person, or like, maybe you're actually sometimes feeding on the negativity as well to make you feel a bit more negative also.
yeah. And that's the thing. You choose who to follow, and you choose what to absorb. And you can read something, you can see the negativity, it can affect you, but then you can also choose to move past that and go, well, that's their journey. And I think you can be, regardless of what someone is putting out there, if there's somebody that you're relatively close to, you can still be supportive. So, if they are being quite negative, just drop them a message and say, "Hey, are you okay? Is there anything that I can do? Is there anything I can talk you through? Is there anything I can signpost you to?" If you don't want to help them, that's also okay, because maybe you're not the right person to do that. That's fine, and actually being able to recognize that is also important. But then, yeah, like, then choose to either, if you skip someone's post enough, the algorithm won't pick them up, and unless you actively seek them out, you probably won't see much from them anyway. Or you can actively meet them, so, and write the name down so you don't forget, and then you can unmeet them when you're either in a better headspace, you've come out of prep, or whatever it is, for whatever reason that you've muted them. That's okay as well. So you get to choose who you absorb, and it makes sure that you're using social media in the positive light. Like I said, it can be a blessing and curse. So try and move past the curse and just focus on the blessing, focus on your aspirations, find those people that actually you love watching their journey, because they're so positive about it. And whenever they're showing their check-ins, they go in, okay, I've still got a little bit of work to do on my glutes, but aren't my delts looking good? There's a positive with every negative. So even when they're being really honest and they're sharing everything, they're also trying to tell you the good things that happened. They're the people that you want, because that's truth, that's reality.
I love that. I love that sentiment because, well, as we've said already, like, bodybuilding, it is such an epic thing, and it comes with its hardships, as it were, or suffering, or whatever we want to call it. But again, it's a choice, and it's like, actually, if we can try and find those people, whether it's off season prep or in between, it can bring a bit of a to your own journey as well, And I often say, the validation, I don't need external validation. It's not why I bodybuild. However, when I get validation from the right people, it's a really nice feeling. And again, I think that sometimes we're like, don't need external validation. And it's not that. You're not seeking it. You get it from the right
Yeah.
people. And it adds a pep in your step. You share it with the right people. And it does fuel you up. It's nice to have that. And again, you're allowed to receive compliments and enjoy it. Because we sort of
Mm.
go bot mode, don't we? Like, "Ugh, I don't need anyone to play a part in my journey." And actually, it can be nice from the people that you want to, give you the feedback and be part of your journey.
Yeah, I think a lot of us take compliments really badly, and I will hold my hand up. I will take a compliment really bad, not badly, but if someone sends a message being like, "Oh my God, you looked amazing on stage," I'm like, "Yeah, but," and then I'm
Yeah.
like, "Why do I have to say that? Just say thank you. If you don't have anything nice to say to yourself, just say thank you for the compliment." So yeah, it can be hard, and it is a mindset game sometimes.
And accepting it and allowing it to be a positive because it's like, if someone says to me, like you say, "Oh, you look really good," or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at. This is the work that needs to be done. So it's like, and the thing is, the never ending pursuit of bodybuilding, it can last for fucking 20, 30 years or whatever. So if we were to settle with like, "Oh, I just feel great here," that's fine. You're probably not doing the competitive bodybuilding thing, are you? Because you're always looking to do more, but actually sitting with how far have you come as well? Like,
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
look at a throwback and you're like, fucking hell, I look quite good here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You've got to think longevity in the sport. So you're never like your first season. There's very few people that will get on stage and they're like, oh, this is the best I'm ever going to look. I'm never going to look any better than this. They're always going to, you weren't lean enough. You probably need to build more muscle because don't we all need more glute, need more delt.
Yeah.
And you should, let's face it, when you continue to bodybuild it, every time you get on stage, you're trying to look better than you looked last time. I think that's the key is rather than try, obviously we're always striving to win, but rather than try focusing on who am I competing against and am I looking better than them, just think me against me. If that means I win, brilliant. But if it doesn't, it doesn't matter because I can do 2 years ago this year or last year this year. And I know that I've made those achievements. So you have to think like what's the longer term goal? And then also doing things like when you send your check in, being positive around that as well. So when you do your video, your photos in the morning and you fill out whatever form that your coach is expecting you to fill out, be honest, but also like again you can focus you're allowed to pick out the positives in your own physique. You're allowed to say I've noticed that my glutes look a bit leaner this week, um rather than going I still know I've got so far to go. So whenever I work with clients, I do a lot with from a health behavior perspective. So I always say one health behavior will lead to another. So when it's somebody that is really starting from scratch, we start off by first thing you do in the morning, you get up and you have a glass of water. That's your first health behavior. That will lead to hopefully a better choice with your breakfast. That will lead to maybe going out for a walk and whatever, and it builds up. It's the same with positive thoughts. So if we're all going to be doing our check-ins first thing in the morning. So if your first thought is look like shit, you're probably then going to be getting on the stairmaster like, oh, I'm fucking bothered to do this, and then it's a drag, and then I was doing it at level 7, I'm just going to drop it to level 6. Um, I've weighed out my 20 grams of peanut butter, but I'm going to lick the spoon, and then it all adds up. And I'm not saying that licking the spoon is going to make any difference, but it's how it affects your mind. Whereas if you can do your check-in and you can go, right, I know that I ticked every box. So even if it's really minimal differences, I'm going to find them and then I'm going to be happy about them.
Mm. And,
And
and
if your coach might turn around and go, still got work to do, so you got to do another 10 minutes on the Stairmaster and we're going to drop you carbs, then go, brilliant, because I know I still got work to do, but I want to be my best.
and that also comes from committing to your plan, right? Whatever phase you're in, you know, if you've done what you're meant to do, you're going to feel more confident in the check-in, right? Like if you have cheated on your diet or you haven't been able to do what you need to do, it's also then understanding why, being honest with it. And actually, I feel like that can build a stronger relationship with your coach as to, you know, if you have fallen off and that's what's causing the negativity. Okay, so let's talk to the coach about it, right? Let's lean on the coach. Let's allow the coach to understand you more. And I did this, but the learning, the positive is I don't want to do that again. Can I have some help and some tools to avoid doing that again? And again, with everything, there's always something that you can draw on to learn and find that positivity. There always is, right? Like
Yeah.
even in the depths of prep. And it's important because again, when you're in the off season, the consistent, as we spoke about, body image and, really berating yourself, it's not a nice place to be.
No, and in your off season, that's where it probably hits even more because, firstly, especially in the pit of your off season, you're probably like week by week, you're not going to see much difference in physique because you can have pushed really hard in the gym. You suddenly do check it, but because you've have put fat on because you needed to, that's a good thing. You don't really see it. So sometimes it can be that longer term thought process of I just can't see now what I'm going to see once I'm in the heart of prep, and therefore I'm demotivated. Whereas if you can again separate body image and go, it doesn't really matter what I'm looking at now, because as long as I know that I am eating enough and I am pushing hard enough in the gym, then I will see the differences in prep. And that's, that's going into the unknown, and we do fear the unknown, but just, having, again, be true to yourself. If I work really hard now, I train really hard now, I do what I need to do in my off season, and I will get the rewards when it comes to being on stage because I will look different to my previous self. Um, and it's understanding, what if that's your longer term goal is to be better on stage, what step by step going backwards, what do you need to do to get there? Well, the first thing you need to do is come out of your prep, you need to start eating, you need to get your health markers back to where they need to be, which is only going to happen when you start eating. It's a brilliant time if you have found yourself that during prep that it is effectively, if we look at the food plan situation or macro counting situation with prep, it could be defined as an eating disorder. I don't, because I would say it's only an issue when it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue in your off season if you are maintaining that same exact level of control and lack of flexibility. So then actually your off season becomes a great time to work on these things so that again you can just feel better about yourself. When you work on food relationship, it can coincide with body relationship, which means that as you put the weight on, you don't hate what you look like. You start seeing, well, I look stronger. I don't look malnourished anymore. I've got us women, I've got my feminine shape back. Like I look like a 12-year-old boy when I get on stage. I don't want to I don't want to carry on like that. It's not sexy. Um, and step by step, you can start building up again. What are the positives? The positives of me eating more, the positive of the scale weight going up, the positive of me getting stronger in the gym. Where does that get me to? Back where I wanted to be on stage, but this time I'm better.
Yeah, and as we know, preference in majority of the whole foods, as it were, or whatever we want to frame that as, being able to, if you want to incorporate off plan, not forcing it if it's not the right time, because sometimes it's
Yeah,
not.
percent.
Sometimes we're almost told we have to have off plan. It's like right now, it's not a good time. So it's got to be what's right for you, which is what we've said already. But also being able to, do it with purpose, train like a beast, be able to, hit your fluid target, hit your step target, keep it consistent, enjoy the lifestyle. And also that leads to more effective and enjoyable social occasions in the off season because the rest of the time you're in your zone, you're doing your thing, you're bodybuilding because you want to, which is important. And then when you do things like social occasions, if you are eating well the rest of the time, you're still eating on the day of off plan, not starving yourself. You're doing what you're meant to do and not over exercising, etc. You get to a meal out and it's very, very different to if you're hyper
Mm.
focused on it, you're pulling back on calories in the week, you then get to the meal, you maybe overeat and whatever happens there. And that then leads to negativity from this pursuit rather than, okay, I'm going to enjoy off planning in off season and see it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And build value around the whole occasion rather than just the food itself. Eat what you want to eat. But yeah, you've got to make peace with prep's hard because you get hungry because you're pulling back on food. Off season can be hard because you're eating more than actually your body requires. And again, it's not necessarily something that we would recommend over the long term, eating in the absence of hunger, but this is a pursuit of a sport. So I mean, I'm talking about like your normal people, we wouldn't push, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. But you've got a long term goal that's very um focused on something extreme. You want to be a bodybuilder. That's it's an extreme sport. That's just what I have to um be accepting of. And that does mean that regardless of the off plan meal or not, you need to make sure that you are eating every day enough. So if you're then restricting before or restricting after an off plan, actually you're not you're not doing your off season. And most coaches, if they're saying, well, I would assume most coaches, if they're saying, you're having one off plan meal a week, they don't really care how many calories it is, but they're somewhat got it in their head. So they are accounting for it over a weekly average. And then, if you go to work and someone's offered you a cookie and you've spent 4, 5, 6 months in print saying no, it's all right to say yes in your off season, because one cookie, if you then average that out across the course of a whole week, probably works out at like 20 calories a day. It's nothing. That's like the difference between buying a New York bagel and buying a Warburton's bagel.
Yeah. And it's being honest with it all of this, everything we
Yeah.
talk about, it is, and if you have the cookie and you tell your coach or whatever, if it turns into a cookie every day on top of your food and then you're having
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
yeah, so again, it
Yeah.
relies on that clear, honest communication with the coach and with yourself, with yourself.
Yeah, and that's where, if it's becoming I'm having it every day, and and it's not a hunger issue, it's not because actually you just generally need more food, then there is a barrier there. There's something there that's is that cookie, does it have the potential to lead into a binge? How is it making you feel? Are you eating it because you generally want it, which is actually much more acceptable than eating it because you don't want it, but it's there, and you just feel like a need and a psychological drive for whatever reason, and whether that is a trauma or a trigger, whatever. There can be something more deep rooted there, and that's where open communication becomes really important. And then from a coaching perspective, if a client is saying that, don't just accept it as such. You need to know when it is absolutely fine to accept it. But if you are seeing patterns and there is something going on, then it's your job either to help that person or to signpost them to someone that can help. And then just be realistic, like, who are you as a coach and what are you meant to do versus like who is the best person to help that person in the moment. And a lot of people go into bodybuilding, I'm not going to say for the wrong reasons, but they go into bodybuilding because they've got into going to the gym because they've got a bad relationship with food, because they've gone through some sort of trauma. And a lot of times that training then becomes a coping mechanism that maybe takes away from food coping mechanism, and it's seen as a really positive thing. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, but if that person hasn't dealt with that initial trauma, then every time they go through a prep and into off season, it's going to come back to life, and that then becomes really difficult. So it's just making sure that as a coach you're understanding where that client is coming from, and where the additional, there's always more support out there. There's websites, there's things to read, there's things to learn, there's people to talk to and turn to. If you can give that client, help them understand where those barriers are and help them understand where they can get additional support, then they can be a better bodybuilder, and then they get longevity in the sport. So it's all, it's working together. And again, it comes down to like the bodybuilding community, I think, is wonderful. I've had some absolutely incredible experiences within the bodybuilding community, because I don't know if I'm just lucky, but the people that I've come across have always been really positive and always been super supportive. And there's always been times when I've needed to reach out and get help, and I've always got it. There's always somebody that's there to help me.
Yeah, we sometimes just have to experience it and then accept it and realize maybe there's more people like this. Maybe.
Yeah.
But we keep the circle small, generally speaking, anyway, don't we? The
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah.
trusted individuals. And you're in my
We
circle.
know who we can trust. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, Emily, thank you for coming back on. I feel like the social butterfly title is quite good because we've fluttered along multiple.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm never very specific.
No,
I love a
no.
good flutter.
You know, when you listen to a podcast, I personally like it when there's so much that you can go, oh,
Yeah.
and you can like write in your notes, I'll go back to that bit or whatever. So I love that. And if obviously touching on the end there a little bit more about what you do from the sort of food pathologies and the food disorder side of things, if people are in that spot where they're maybe needing additional support or looking to come away from their coach to work with someone like yourself, is it generally speaking Instagram that people would head over to?
Yeah, so well, three ways you can get in touch with me. So Instagram, I've got a website and I've got an email address. So I'll send everything over to you and then you can link it on it. But yeah, feel free to get in touch if you want to talk to me, if you need some additional support, if you need some additional coaching. Some people just need to literally have one conversation just to get thoughts in order, so it doesn't have to, nothing ever has to take away from your bodybuilding journey. And I think that's sometimes the scary thing, is it feels like it should take away from bodybuilding journey, but it doesn't have to. We are about enhancing your journey.
I love that. I love that. What a sentiment to finish. Well, of course, thank you. And I will see you. This will go live after, but I will see you Saturday.
See you on Saturday. Take care.
Later. Bye.
Bye.